My son, Thomas. That's the item I'm most proud of. The rest, I was working hard, thanks to God. Still is my friend. I was lucky. I told you the story, coming there and there and there. And I never was afraid to work. And all this together made my life interesting. I met so many people around the world. Now I had the last mile to go. That's normal. I'm the last mile. I'm satisfied what I did. And I still have my office, my little office open 3 days a week, half day with my secretary, with Siggy, which will make now 70. She's 40 years with me. Before I had always 5 ladies in the office. And she works very well, and I make it as more or less as much as I can. It's one thing I want to tell you. Specimen. Mineral specimen. I have a theory, and I found it out. If you have a Picasso, it's the name because if you have a Picasso, a painting of Picasso, you see in the museum, you can photograph it, and you know with a little trick you can reproduce it, the picture, 1,000 times. You see this specimen, you can do whatever you want. You cannot reproduce it. Therefore, good specimen, being decorative, and as I was looking for the English word, as a decorative piece, as not a collector's item, as an item like as an art object. For example, a painting is an art object. Specimen as an art object who never can be reproduced, cannot be, is a future. I preaching that since long time. And I always find out that there are private people, sometimes come to me, they see this piece, they look around this piece, they start breathing it, they know it's unique, they say, how much is it? I said, it's so much. They open their purse and they buy it. And the last time I was on I have closed now my booth at the mineral show in Munich after 30 years. Because last year I was there, I said, it's now too old. Last year I was 83, you are 83, and you're still standing on your booth, even doing nothing. I have always my people. But something happened. On the last exhibit, I said to my secretary, and I have somebody who helps me always, Mr. Schwarz, I said, Schwarz, we don't take to this show any more cheap things. We only take expensive art-looking pieces and specimen. Rare, I don't mind, but they have to look something really. They have to look like an art piece, a piece of art which you put in your. Okay, we put there. First day, the normal customers came who used to buy from me stones for hobby cutting and this and that, and I had always a big booth there. 30 square meters is a lot. Very little turnover. The second day and the third day, people came to me, I don't know why, well dressed, mostly private people, and said, how much is this here? Another piece. Very nice. This I can use because I have still a cabinet. I can use how much? I said, this $10,000. So, at the end of the day, I had sold so many of these spectacular pieces, art pieces, to such kind of people, and I thought I am the only one. So I went a little bit round and asked people I know, what did you sell? They all confirmed to me, Mr. Petsch, we mostly sold only selected pieces. And the customer had changed. That was after the Corona time. Customer have changed. People start now looking for decorative, rare pieces which never can be replaced. And since years, I say, specimen, let's say mineral specimen, like collecting, yes. But more and more people will come and will buy spectacular pieces. They don't have to be rare. This is not rare. You can buy a ton of black tourmaline, this one here. But this together is a spectacular piece. And this will be a market in the world. Who discovered it since long, long time, since tradition, are the Chinese. They have made this since the last 2,000 years. We were sitting on the trees, then they already knew what that was. But this kind of market will come. And this kind of market, you have to travel around the world like an antique dealer travels around the world to find old grandmother who has a chair who was 300 years old. You have to travel around and buy such things in a more or less reasonable price, and you can market it. This will be a future of a new market. It has nothing to do with cut stones, but this will come into the world as a new established market. Is already, but will develop much more. Because a painting, they pay $10 million for a flower arrangement of Mr. So-and-so. I make a photograph and you can produce it for me 10 times on a photo, you see. But this not. This is only once. A photo you can make, yes. You can put on the wall, but you don't. The piece itself, no. You have East Africa here. And you have the East African ditch. There's a ditch. The world once has a very enormous tectonic opening. Let's say going from, now more or less, Johannesburg, going to the Mediterranean Sea, and ending up in Greece, where you still have the earthquake. When this East African ditch started opening, so-called rest minerals contains from the interior of the world started to come up. And they were the ones, rest mineralien, they were the ones who, in contact with the existing material, like a pegmatite, started to form all these rare minerals, which are tanzanite, which are tsavorite, which are ruby, and you find them all along the East African ditch. One of the nucleus which they have is in Ethiopia. There, let's say, we speak now a simple language, not the language of the let's say, professors of university. Here in Ethiopia, for example, it started to be very heavy tectonic movement, and here you find still a lot of stones. Every day you will find more. Same thing happened in the area of Kenya and Tanzania. That is the reason why they have it there, and that is the reason why the next 100 years we still will find different places always with stones. Why? Because when the East African ditch, we went through all Africa, started up there with the, we call it in German, Restflüssigkeit, which had these rare minerals. They came up and they started forming different kind of minerals, like an aquamarine, like a tourmaline, like a tsavorite, like this. Mostly came in this line. You always will find, and it came to the surface easy. You only find, you cannot detect stones by helicopter or by instrument. You only can see it when it comes to the surface. So where we had quite a lot of surface discoveries, which leads then to the better discovery in Mozambique. Then it started disappearing. Then suddenly it came up a little bit more in Tanzania. And only when you found these things on the surface, we were able to follow it up and open ditches and see really here it came from this side. And from this side we have to continue, we will find more stones. We will find stones. But we never can define the quality. That's impossible. If you find one good aquamarine, it never says that you find in the next 100, 200 meters another good aquamarine. We cannot define the quality. We can say it appears here and the vein goes here, but you can never say 2 meters behind it's better, it's worse. Therefore, most of the mines fail because they have not enough capital to continue until they find the next, they call it pocket, which is better crystallized, you see. But it has space to crystallize. Here it had no space. And I think East Africa will be still, for the next 100 years, easy a good supplier, as long as people have capital enough and courage enough to mine and to organize itself. Same as in Brazil. You have the same way in Brazil. And if you put Brazil and Africa together, they match. You know, that was once one. Yeah, we invested in Madagascar. We invested in Mozambique. We invested, the family. We invested in Namibia. We invested in Brazil. But never 100%, always 10, 20, 25%, sometimes bigger sums, sometimes smaller sums. We invested to secure the supply. Emerald mines, it was only in Madagascar. The other mines, later on, the people had enough money to make it themselves. And the prices went up so much so they could finance by production.